The date is April 8th, 2021. We're in the state of Texas, in the United States of America. There's a fundamental problem in America these days, and it's become progressively worse over the last 5 to 10 years. I'm talking about our rule of law, our law enforcement that has no oversight, none whatsoever. They do whatever they want, whenever they want, say whatever they want, shoot people in the back, unarmed. It's outrageous what's going on in America today. I find myself at the receiving end of probably the most corrupt I've seen in my entire lifetime of the judicial branch and the executive, legislative, and the law enforcement in the state of Texas. I grew up here. I was born in San Antonio, raised here. Born in 1968. I grew up here in the 70s and the 80s. Moved to California. Lived in California for 10 years. Was in the military. Traveled all over the U.S. Overseas. So I've seen a lot. I've been a lot of places. I've done a lot of things. But what's troubled me the most is for 10 years of my life, I volunteered as a first responder, providing emergency services to people in need, life-threatening situations, automobile accidents, house fires, search and rescue, just, the whole gamut of emergency response. And I didn't receive any money for what I did. I was strictly volunteer. Didn't get anything. Cost me, if anything, cost me money, which was fine. I was giving back to my community. It's done a lot to help me over the years. But what I ran into is I started a nonprofit association, a 501c3, registered in the state of Texas with a tax exemption from the comptroller as a volunteer fire department, registered with the Texas Secretary of State as a public safety organization, given a permit after I applied for it by the Secretary of State to solicit for donations from the public because we're a nonprofit, and found myself being harassed by local law enforcement and municipalities between Bexar and Comal counties, to the extent where I was arrested for soliciting with no permit, for not having a city permit when I had a state permit. And the state law clearly states that I'm exempt from having a city permit. I'm exempt from any city ordinance controlling the solicitation activities of the association. So I found myself at the receiving end of harassment, illegal arrest, illegal detention, prosecution for impersonation of a public servant, claiming that I am impersonating a first responder in the state of Texas. And, it amazes me to no end that they can get away with this. The police officer lied on her affidavit to get an arrest warrant from the magistrate. It's been proven. The documents there, the lies are, you can't hide a lie. A lie shines bright as day in the darkness. So the lies are evident. She claimed that I've been convicted of soliciting with no permit in a municipal court in Schertz, Texas, which never happened. I have also had multiple felony convictions in the state of Texas, including one for burglary, as a matter of fact. Funny, though, that I could drive for Uber and Lyft and pass their background checks and get a TNC driver's background check done by the City of San Antonio Police Department, authorizing me to drive for money. So here's the funny thing. I don't have many felony convictions, but yet the officer will tell the judge and the prosecutor and the state, and a sworn affidavit in her police reports, this individual's a criminal, history criminal, even for burglary. He's out stealing money from the public, so we got to stop him. They put me in jail, 6 months. 6 months. I fought it. Then COVID came, and they suspended jury trials, and I was already there 6 months. So they offered me a plea deal, take a deferred adjudication, just don't commit another crime, and do community service, or not community service, community supervision. In other words, probation. Just don't get in any trouble. But then I found myself at the receiving end of probation, who started to do their own lies. Tried to violate me, claiming I had a weapon in my house, which I never did. just off the wall things, just trying to get me into the final conviction, get that deferred adjudication thrown out. And it didn't stick, though. The judge reinstated it. And at that time, because my court-appointed attorney recused herself and stopped representing me, claiming she now had a conflict of interest, after she represented me all the way up until I took the plea deal, and then now all of a sudden that I'm trying to fight it on the back end, she's going to all of a sudden step back and say, oh, no, I have a conflict of interest now. I can't represent him, she tells the court, which is fine because she did absolutely nothing to help me to begin with. She didn't file any documents. We were 30 days from trial, 30 days from going to trial, and she didn't do one damn thing, file one piece of paper in the court for anything. No suppression of evidence, no motions in limines, none of the normal boilerplate filings that defense attorneys do for their clients when they're defending them on a criminal charge. So it was a dog and pony show the whole way through. And so she did me a favor by withdrawing, because that allowed me to go into the court and represent myself and state to the judge that I'm representing myself under the Article 9 of the Texas Constitution, which I'm allowed to, and Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. So he sent me for a competency evaluation with a doctor, wanted to try to find a way out of me not representing myself. If he could prove that I was incompetent, well, then, hey, that's even better, because then he could step in and take over. But he had a problem. I knew more about the law than the doctor did, and I was able to school the doctor on some things. So when I told the doctor, well, okay, this is res judicata, it's already been determined in the municipal court, they tried to prosecute me for soliciting with no permit while I was collecting donations in my uniform. They didn't charge me with impersonation then. So now they're going to come back 3 years later and do it now and claim that this is a new criminal act? No, it's not. It's all from the same transaction, same criminal episode, as they call it. So it's the same series of transactions under the same premise of business, okay? So because I was always wearing my uniform and always collecting donations at the exact same spot, FM 3009 and IH 35 in Guadalupe County, Texas, that it can't be a different criminal episode. It's all the same, all one. It doesn't matter if it was one day or the next, a day after that, or a week after that, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. So they tried to prosecute me. And this is where the fraud comes in. The officer not only lied, but come to find out that the person who called the police that day to report that we have some strange guy up here collecting donations, it doesn't appear to be a legitimate firefighter. Why would a citizen call and say to the police department, there's a guy out here on the highway collecting money, I don't think he's a real firefighter. But yeah, then the police officer the next day goes to the battalion chief of the city fire department, shows him my photograph of my uniform and what I was doing that day and how I appeared, and the chief goes, he looks exactly like a firefighter. So the officer goes, oh, well then if he's looking like a firefighter, we're going to prosecute him for impersonation of a fireman. Wait a second, back up. If I looked like it to the battalion chief, why would somebody call in and say that there's a guy collecting money up here on the highway that I don't think is a fireman? Well, it turns out that the person who called is the lieutenant for the Selma Fire Department, paid employee, and I was in the middle of a civil suit against Selma for a false arrest, for them arresting me for soliciting with no permit, which is not an arrestable offense. I was not a threat to the public. There was no warrant that was issued, so they arrested me with no warrant and took me to jail for not having a city permit to collect donations. And that's the funny thing, because the only way they're supposed to arrest you and take you to jail is if you are a threat to yourself or to the community, threatening public health or public safety, and then they have to protect the public. But collecting donations for a 501c3 nonprofit association. It's not even a corporation, it's just an association, group of individuals providing services to the community. So that's a criminal act, and that's an arrestable offense. And so no, it's not. And that's why I was suing them. And I was winning in state court. They tried to remove it to federal court, and I got it remanded back to state court. Because you see, the city's attorney, the high price paid attorney that they had, was the same city attorney who prosecuted me on the soliciting with no permit in the city of Selma, and they dropped it on to just pay us $10 and the whole thing would go away. But it never did. I paid them the $10 and they go, oh, now you got a phone again. Now you got a conviction for soliciting with no permit. Yeah, crazy. It's all insane. So he's representing the city in a civil case. They try to remove it to federal court, claiming I'm making a federal case out of it, even though I didn't, because even though I said that they're constitutional violations, I wasn't suing under those constitutional violations. I was suing under state law, and it was clearly in the motion. So I got it remanded back to Comal County, which is the county I live in, because the suit was for defamation of character. They defamed me in the community, and it cost me and put me in jail. So I was suing them under the Texas Code of Civil Procedure, which states a suit for defamation has to be and must be brought in the county in which I reside in. Cannot be heard in any other county. They don't have any jurisdiction. That specific defamation charge or a suit for defamation claim can only be brought in the county in which the petitioner resides. So remanding it to federal was okay because that was a higher court. But what they did is when it went back to Comal County, they went in and did a motion to change the venue. And they got it shipped over to Guadalupe County, which is the county Selma's in. And that's the county judges, all of the city judges, and everybody's buddy over there. So I wasn't in court that day. I was in trial in Bexar County, and criminal courts take precedent over civil courts. And I notified the court coordinator in the civil court in Comal County that I was not going to be in court that day. I needed to reschedule. It was a conflict with a criminal case in Bexar County, and criminal case takes precedent. So what happened? They didn't reschedule the hearing. They went ahead and just left it right where it was, knowing that I wasn't going to be there. Okay, because now they know he's going to be in trial that day down in Bexar County. He's not going to be able to make it, which worked perfect for them, because what they did is they went in ex parte and got the judge to change the venue. And the judge isn't supposed to change the venue, and he even knew it because I filed the answer to their motion to change the venue, stating that it has to be brought in Comal County, which is the county I reside in, according to Texas Code of Civil Procedure. Okay, that's the law. So when they changed it, the venue, to Guadalupe County, and it went over to the 2nd 25th District Court, Judge Crawford, and she had a hearing and dismissed the officers from the civil suit. And not only that, gave a summary judgment to the Channel 4 television station who broadcasted a false information on me. Bolo, be on the lookout for this criminal. We got this guy at large. If you see him, call the police department, and we're looking for him. Okay? So I was suing them also and then joined them in the suit because they didn't have to broadcast that. They chose to. In fact, they changed it. It didn't say anything about there being a criminal act involved. All it said is this person was seen doing this activity. We're not even sure it's wrong, but if you see him, just let us know. We want to know. But they turned it into, this guy's out there doing something he's not supposed to be doing. If you see him, you call the police department right away. Okay? So it went from not being a criminal act to being a criminal act. Changed by the TV station reporting it. Now, they claim constitutional protection that they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to provide that information to the public as a public good, public necessary. But they're not allowed to change the information. They're only allowed to provide what the information is. And they can't alter it, which is what they did. And that doesn't give them constitutional protection. So they think it does. They can do anything they want. They are the media. They can get away with it. But they can't. So Judge Crawford goes ahead and gives them a judgment, a summary judgment, for $130,000 for them having to get an attorney 3 weeks before the court hearing, because that's when they got enjoined into the lawsuit. They weren't originally members of the lawsuit. They got enjoined 3 weeks before the court hearing. So what they did those 3 weeks to earn $130,000, by God, I should like to know, because I want their job, because that's the job I need to have, where I can make $130,000 in 3 weeks. Okay? So the whole point being is when it went to Crawford in Guadalupe County, it was illegal. There was no jurisdiction. She had no jurisdiction. Any order she makes is void. Everything she did was void. It was voidable. It is void, period. It's not voidable. It is void. It's like it never even happened. Even though they say it happened, it doesn't mean anything. It's not enforceable. It's bogus. It's dead. Does them no good. So But she tried to scare me. She went even one further. After that $130,000 judgment, she put in her order, if I were to appeal her order, her dismissing the case, if I were to appeal it and it were to go to the Supreme Court of Texas, that she would hit me with another $100,000 just for filing the appeal. How's that for corruption? Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, let's scare the hell out of him. Yeah, if he files it, tell him if he files the appeal, it's going to cost him $100,000. He won't do it. Wrong. I did it anyways, and I was winning on my appeal, and they knew that. They knew that they were screwed. They knew that they were fucked, and that they were going to get caught, especially with that $100,000 bribe, not to or threat not to file. And I did anyways. So what could they do? Arrest me and put me in jail for 6 months, so I can't prosecute the rest of my appeal, and win. And the appellate court will dismiss the appeal because I can't respond. I'm in jail. Every order they sent to my house, I'm not getting. I'm not able to respond to their requests for filings. And because I didn't respond, they just dismissed it. Thinking that I just didn't care anymore and just, oh well, let's go on with life. But you see, those 6 months that I was in jail on this bogus felony charge, the Texas legislature passed a law and made it part of our criminal procedure that a person who's held on a felony charge who does not post bond and get out of jail can only be held 90 days. After the 91st day, if there's no indictment filed in the trial court by the district attorney, then the judge is automatically supposed to release that person on an OR bond, own recognizance, with no stipulations attached other than show up in court. If you fail to show up, it's a failure to appeal, we'll arrest you, put you back in jail for the rest of the case. But you see, they didn't do that. They kept me in jail. 6 months. 180 days. 90 days past the 90-day mark, but the legislature specifically passed a law to protect people from that happening to what they did to me. And see, they knew it. They knew exactly what they were doing because that kept me there that time to where I couldn't prosecute my appeal in the appellate court and got it dismissed. The minute it was dismissed, where I was no longer had that pending, I was released. Mm-hmm. Oh, but he didn't give me a OR bond. He put me out on pretrial release with probation costs. I had to go report every week. I had a drug test. I had to be wherever, whenever they come to my house. Whatever. Talk about stipulations. I might as well have been on felony probation because it was the exact same thing. Same requirements for felony probation as what they did for their pretrial release that they're not supposed to do. So, because I didn't pay them the $65 a month that they wanted, and because I refused to take a drug test, because I'm not convicted, you're not charging me with a crime for drugs. What are you testing me for? It was not even alleged. What gives you the thought that okay, well, we need to test him for drugs? Yeah, okay, yeah, we need to test him. Pretrial release, person who is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So there's something fundamentally wrong in the United States of America, and especially in the state of Texas, when these things are allowed to happen, and they're done by our law enforcement and our judicial officials. These guys and these women, they know exactly what they're doing. They're out there. They're doing these things because they can get away with it, and there's nobody stopping them. Nobody's stopping them. Now, we live in America where we, the people, are supposed to be the ones ruling, not the rulers ruling us. I mean, I understand we give them sovereign immunity to hold those positions, but that doesn't give them the right to, hell, even the kings and queens in the old days, they got their heads chopped off, okay, by the people when they overstepped. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that sovereign immunity bullshit. No. I don't buy the qualified immunity for the cops. I don't buy the sovereign immunity for the officials. That's bullshit. I had Greg Abbott do that. Okay, he stole $5,000 from my Social Security disability, claiming that I didn't pay my child support. After I had, not only did I pay it, I overpaid it. Okay, they took more from me than what I owed. So they owed me $7,000. Then they tried to file a judgment against me for another $5,000, saying I didn't pay anything to begin with in the first place, which was a bogus lie. And then when I took it to court, because the Social Security agency said, there's nothing we can do, you have to go through the courts to get your money back. We can't do it. You have to do it through the courts. So I filed in the courts. And what do? They come and say, well, it's a sovereign immunity. You can't be sued. They can do whatever they want, steal whatever they want from you, do whatever they want to you. You have no recourse, none whatsoever, because they're sovereign immunity. Which is bullshit, okay? They even said that's why we have tort law, because there is no sovereign immunity, okay? But they'll tell you in the court, and then the judge will roll right along with it and say, okay, that's sovereign immunity, case dismissed, goodbye. To protect the government, to protect them that are breaking the laws, who are supposed to be enforcing the laws. So I filed a writ of habeas corpus, which is supposed to be my remedy in post-conviction relief. Even though I'm not convicted, I'm on a deferred adjudication. I am not convicted. But I have to file the writ of habeas corpus under a post-conviction relief, 11.07 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, that goes to the Criminal Court of Appeals. Not supposed to go to the Criminal Court of Appeals. It's supposed to go to the trial court. And the trial court judge is supposed to rule on the writ of habeas corpus. He's supposed to be the habeas judge, the habeas ruler. He rules on the habeas issue. Now, what happened? I set the hearing. I tried to set the hearing. Court administrator for 3 weeks trying to get it set because there's a time limitation after the state got notice. They didn't file an answer. So now the judge has a certain amount of time. He has to compile all the information, and then he has to make his ruling on the writ of habeas corpus. He has to enter an order. Now, what they did is they sent it back to me and said, oh, no, sir. They're not going to be. No, it goes straight to the Criminal Court of Appeals. You filed under 1107, TCCP 1107. Which is post-conviction relief. I said, no. I did file on 1107, but I filed on 1107.072, okay? Which is a subsection of 1107, habeas corpus. So it's specifically for people who are on probation. But that's just the thing. It's supposed to be for people on probation that didn't go to jail, that aren't incarcerated in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, TDCJ, okay, as in prison, in other words, got sentenced to prison after the conviction. But I never was convicted. In fact, the judge even told me in courtroom that day when I took the plea deal, I said, well, sir, I'm worried about losing my Social Security. I want to rescind my plea, and let's go to trial, and I don't want to plead guilty. He says, no, you're not guilty. You're not convicted. He says, you're not finally convicted. For all intents and purposes, this isn't a final conviction. You're on deferred adjudication. In other words, we deferred the case and set it on the side over here, on the side table. And as long as you do what you're supposed to over here, this will never get acted on over here. And if you do everything you're supposed to over here, when the time ends, that just goes away like a magic fly. And then nothingness. But you see, that's another lie. Because they're telling me now, no, it's a conviction. That's why it's under TCCP 1107. Even though it's .072, it is 1107. So I'm telling the court administrator, I said, no, it's not supposed to go to Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. It's 1107. It's 11.072. It's not 11.07. So that's strictly supposed to be ruled on by the judge in the trial court. And if he doesn't agree, if he doesn't give me a habeas relief, and his rulings are adverse to what my pleadings are, then I am allowed to file in the Texas Appellate Court, the Fourth Court of Appeals in San Antonio, appealing his ruling. Okay, just like after a trial, or just like after a final conviction, I get the same appeal to the appellate court on the habeas issue that I would get if I were convicted in the trial court of the crime in and of itself. So it's not supposed to go to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Okay, it specifically says in the code that no. I get that relief. That's my relief. And it doesn't go to the Court of Criminal Appeals. It goes to the Court of Appeals if I file it, or if the state files it. If he gave the ruling in my favor, the state could turn around and have a right to file an appeal in the Texas Appellate Court, Fourth Court of Appeals in San Antonio, just like I do. So there is no